your dreams.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Snowbreak Containment Zone video, and today I'm just going to be talking about the new character, Katya. By the way, if you happen to like the content, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. So Katya is a DPS character. All she does is DPS. That makes her an easy skip, because if you care about the meta of any gacha game, you should pull for the support characters, since you can basically put support characters anywhere and they work just fine. Even though Katya is a DPS character, there are some unique traits about her. For one thing, she's the only crossbow character in the game, and crossbows do not need to reload. So when you're playing as Katya, you do not have to reload with her. Sometimes I reload out of habit, because whenever I kill an enemy, I typically reload immediately. But with Katya, you do not need to reload at all. So that might be a pretty interesting preference that you may have. When you pull for Katya, she does not need to reload. Number 2 is her tactical dodge. It's kind of similar to the 5-star Shinsing's, but it's kind of like a teleport dash. This tactical dodge is pretty good when you're fighting against those enemies that like to trap you in the barrier and basically bombard you. Katya's tactical dodge can basically have her get out of that barrier. When you're fighting Joseph Bison, instead of destroying the barriers, you can just tactical dodge through it. She is pretty useful when you're fighting against those enemies that like to trap you in a barrier. Another thing about Katya's crossbows is that crossbows do not crit. However, since her DPS scaling is very high, she doesn't really need to worry about crits, and because she doesn't crit, you don't have to worry about hitting the enemy's weak point. You can basically hit the enemy anywhere on the body. It wouldn't really matter because she's not critting anyways. If you didn't know already, when you hit an enemy's weak point, it's basically an automatic crit. Just like with most DPS characters in the game, her main source of damage is going to be coming from her standard skill. So you should definitely unlock the Neuronic talents on her standard skill, since that's basically most of her damage. Katya's standard skill, the Traverse of Death, or Death Traverser, she basically enters this mode called the Guidance 3 form, and while she enters this form, she's basically a sitting duck. She cannot move while in this form. She will also have a 50% all type resistance, which basically means that she will resist damage while she's in this form, since she's not moving in this form. Katya cannot produce skill energy while she's in this form, and each shot that she fires will basically consume skill energy. When your skill energy runs out, she will exit this form, and she will also exit this form when you use a tactical dodge. Katya's rate of fire will increase depending on what crossbow mode she's in. In normal mode, the rate of fire is fixed at 8 rounds, and in special mode, it's fixed at 4 rounds. When you use her standard skill again, she will exit the Guidance 3 form mode. I don't think you need to worry about the differences between the normal and special modes, because while she uses this skill, enemies will just basically straight up die. Katya is a very excellent DPS. Enemies just straight up die. Because Katya is going to be a sitting duck most of the time, the best characters to pair her up with are going to be healing characters, or maybe Cirrus. Since Katya is most likely going to be taking some hits, having a healer on team will definitely help a lot, since you're most likely going to be getting hit with Katya. And Cirrus is a shielding character. She can basically shield Katya from any oncoming damage. She's also the only shielder in the game. It's kind of a shame that I don't have her invested yet. But even without Cirrus, I'm still crushing content with Katya anyways. I do think Katya is kind of boring to play, so if you like being a sitting duck in turret mode, then she will be a pretty cool character to play with. The Neuronics for her standard skill basically help a lot with her standard skill. One of them basically, whenever Katya does a tactical dodge while she is in her Guidance 3 form mode, the cooldown of the skill will be reset immediately. So if you do see a very big hit coming your way, it would be wise to use the tactical dodge instead of taking the hit, because if Katya takes too much hits, she will basically exit the Guidance 3 form mode, and when she exits the form mode in that way, the cooldown will start. But if you use the tactical dodge instead, you don't have to worry about the cooldown, so you're basically going to have to use her standard skill and learn to dodge at the right moment so she doesn't exit out of her Guidance 3 form mode by accident. Second neural skill is basically when she is equipped with a frost weapon and is not in Guidance 3 form mode, shots will restore 2 skill energy. So her normal shots will have some uses here, because in order to use her guidance 3-4 mode, she does need to consume skill points. Not skill points, but skill energy. So if you're dodging an oncoming enemy attack, you exit the guidance 3-4 mode, maybe use her normal shots for a little bit, and then enter the guidance 3-4 mode again. Now as for Katya's support skill, she'll basically do AoE cryo damage or ice damage, frost damage, and any enemies hit by this will be frozen. So she does have like some type of special crowd control. However, I don't really think the AoE is that good. And since she is a DPS character, you're most likely going to be using her for a standard skill. Not to mention her manifestations basically all increase the guidance 3-4 mode, which comes from her standard skill. None of her manifestations basically help out with her support skill, nor do they really help with her ultimate either. Now as for her ultimate, if you play Genshin Impact's Amber, it's kind of similar to that, but a little bit more AoE. There's going to be just a circle of arrows raining down on the enemy. That's it. With the neural skills, it can increase the AoE and will also slow down the enemy's movement speed, which is pretty cool. So I think I would prioritize the standard skill Neuronics and then the ultimate skill Neuronics. So how does Katya compare to the other DPS characters in the game? Top 2 DPS characters that are not Katya as of right now are either the Solstice Winter Yao and the Coronet Fenny. These 3 characters are basically the top 3 DPS in the game. You can get Fenny or Yao for free through the SSR selector. You do need 2 teams anyways to compete in Neuro Simulation and to complete the Underground Purge. So if you are in dire of a new DPS right now, pulling Katya would not be a bad idea. I used Katya on the Underground Purge hard and I did clear it just fine. I did miss out on 1 star because the last few enemies with Katya's half basically had ice resistance, so you know, there's really nothing I could do about that. I could have just used her on the second half instead and I would have gotten the full clear, but I do think Katya is a pretty amazing DPS. The game does give you a pretty decent 4-star DPS, which is the 4-star Fenny, and I think the 4-star Fenny is actually pretty fucking good, although I might be a little bit more biased since I do have a 5-star weapon on her. I don't think Katya is a must pull, despite the fact that I said that she's an amazing DPS, since you need support characters in order for DPS characters to really excel. If you need a new DPS character and you don't like the 4-star Fenny, then yeah, sure, go ahead, pull for Katya. That's basically all I have to say. Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys pulling for Katya? How do you feel about her so far? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you guys later.